I just thought I'd hop on because I've had some requests through to do some explanations on what my books are about and how to use them with kids. So I've decided to do a little series of me introducing you to the book so that you know exactly which book to go for which topic, and how they can be used to help your kids. So this is a book review, and the first book I'm going to talk about is Dear Bully. So the reason behind me writing and publishing this book is my years as a teacher and also my years as a parent, because bullying is pretty much everywhere, unfortunately, and it's something that we have to deal with on a personal level because it doesn't stop when you get to adulthood, as I'm sure you know, and it's something that children are dealing with sometimes on a day-to-day basis to some extreme or another. And it's different to when we were at school because we didn't have social media. So I'm going through things with my kids that I never had to deal with when I was a child because it just wasn't there. So you had difficulties with people when I went to school. You got home, you had a break from it, regroup, refresh, go back to school the next day, you cope with it again. But a lot of these issues are happening and kids aren't getting a break from it. And I've been through this with my children many times, and it's very difficult as a parent to go through this. I'm very protective of my kids, and if someone hurts any of my family, my immediate response is defensiveness, anger, because how dare anybody hurt somebody that I love, and I know they don't deserve that treatment. So I've written articles about bullying in the past, and I've actually received quite a bit of negative backlash from that, and I'll explain to you why. My time as a teacher, when I've been dealing with bullying issues, have been working with kids who have got massive difficulty, struggle, pain, heartache in their lives. Now, I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that allows them a free card to do whatever they want. That's not what I'm saying. However, what I am saying is parents are very protective of their kids, but I think as well parents have got that strong urge and that strong instinct to care for young people. When you're a parent, you see a child who falls over in front of you in a playground, your instinct is to pick that child up and help and give some comfort until their parents get there, sort of like substitute parents in that moment, because we're all here to look after each other. So in the past, I've had issues as a teacher where I've had very, very angry parents of the child who's been the victim of bullying, and I completely relate to that. It's a perfectly normal and natural response. Of course, you want to protect the people that you love. Of course, you don't want them to be hurting in any way. And yeah, nobody has got the right to do that, and I 100% agree. But at the same time, if those same amazing, loving, supportive, wonderful parents had an insight into what the other child was going through, I feel like they're the sort of people that would want to help and support and offer some love and support to that child. So obviously I haven't been able to share the information about the child who has chosen to use bullying behavior because it's confidential. It's not for me to say. This is when I was teaching in England. Obviously it's confidential. I can't discuss private information about another student. But oftentimes I did feel in my heart, if only those parents knew what this child was going through, I have no doubt that they would show love and compassion and support and tolerance and patience and kindness, because they're wonderful people. So I've had that from a teaching perspective. from a parent perspective, I've had my kids go through terrible bullying. And, you know, it rips your heart out as a parent. It really does. And I remember when we first moved to Australia, I didn't really know many people. We were in a new school. I was completely out of my depth, going from an environment where I knew pretty much everybody, because I was a village girl, grown up there, raised there. You know, someone would beep and I'd just raise my hand and wave, even if I didn't see exactly who it was, because everybody knew me, I knew everybody. And then to come to Australia, I didn't know anybody, absolutely nobody. We had some family here, I got my cousins and things, but it was really supportive, but they were busy with their lives as well. So I didn't have any friends of my own. I didn't have my little community around me. So it was quite isolating, I'd say, certainly for the first 6 months. And anyway, so they started school, and my daughter, who was around 7, 8 years old at the time, I got notified from the school that she'd been bullied at lunchtime, and it'd been so bad that she'd actually hidden away at lunchtime and hidden under the tables in the classroom. So that wasn't like her at all. She's quite an outgoing, friendly, easy to get on with, happy-go-lucky type kid. So that was so unlike her. And this older boy had been taunting her in the playground, picking on her in front of the others, so humiliating her, which she found incredibly intimidating because we were very new to the country and the school and the environment and everything. And he actually went over and spat in her face, which was really confronting for her, really distressing. He got a bit physical. And so anyway, she was very distressed. So my husband was working long hours. I didn't have anyone to talk to at the time. All of my friends were asleep because, you know, they're in England and I was in Australia. And I remember cooking dinner, just sobbing, because I was so angry. I was so angry with this boy, this older boy, twice her size. I was livid. You know, how dare anybody hurt my baby girl, who's a beautiful, gorgeous, gentle, loving, giving, wonderful soul. And I was so angry. I just had tears streaming down my face when I was cooking dinner because I was so angry I didn't know what to do. And then, you know, that was my mama bear coming out. So that was my instinctual, protect my young, I want to just go in there and have a go at this child and tell him what for and see the family and tell them what for. And I was really mad, okay? And then I'm not the sort of person that reacts when I'm very emotional. I don't like to react when I'm emotional. I like to sit with it. I like for the emotions to settle, and I like to think it through carefully and make sure that I'm being fair and reasonable and intelligent in my response. Because when the emotions bubble up, intelligence and logics go out of the window with me, because I'm a very feeling sort of a person. So I make sure I step right back from any situation, and I make sure I don't respond when I'm feeling emotional, because I'm not going to respond well in those circumstances. So I get my big girl pants on, put my professional hat on and say, right, I need to leave this for a bit. I need to sit with it, and I need to see where this is going to go. So I slept on it. And then in the morning, I had my professional hat on. I had my teacher's hat on. You know, my mother's hat was still around, but I thought, okay, let me look at this from another perspective. And then I, you know, remembered the kids that I've dealt with in the past that have had these difficult issues that they've been facing, and they're lost and they're lonely and they're scared and they're lashing out, and not an excuse, but context. Okay. So I decided to write this child a letter. So I did. I wrote him a letter. And I wrote it as if I was his mother, okay? So it wasn't a letter of hate. It wasn't an aggressive letter. It was a letter that I thought, I'm going to imagine that this boy is my son and he's made a horrible choice. And I need to talk him through this and make it a teaching point. So I wrote the letter and I said, in a nutshell, what you've done is wrong. You haven't just hurt one person, you've hurt a whole family. And would you be brave enough to hurt her in front of all of us? you know, because that's who you're hurting. You're not just hurting one person, you're hurting a whole tribe of people who love this person. But, you know, and I said, what, you know, you've made the wrong choice. And then I went on to say that obviously he was a strong and powerful person, and that he had a choice either to use that strength and power where people were drawn to him because he could be a protector and a guide and a friend and someone to look up to, or he could use this power and strength to hurt people, and just people want to stay away from him and they want anything to do with him. And I also praised him for apologizing, because he did apologize to my daughter. And I said, you know, that takes a lot of courage to say, I've done the wrong thing and I apologize. I said, some adults don't do that. I said, so well done. That shows me that at the core of you, you're a good person. And this is a behavior, it's not who you are. So I wrote, that's in a nutshell what I wrote. And so I signed it, put it in an envelope. And then, of course, it would have been completely inappropriate for me to give that to the child. So I gave it to the principal of the school, and I just said, look, this is how I feel. This is how I've processed it. This is how I've dealt with it. It's up to you what you do with this letter. So I gave it to her unsealed, and I said, throw it away if you need to, do whatever you want with it, but this is how I've processed it and dealt with it. So I just need to hand this on to you. So anyway, the principal actually read the letter and decided to use it. So she invited the parents of the child and the child in, and they read the letter from us, or from me, together. And, you know, there were tears in that meeting, and there was regret, and there was a realization of something bigger going on, you know, and a realization from that boy that his actions were affecting a lot of people, not just one person. And it really got him to stop and think and question things. And you know, the parents, and they all agreed to take the points of the letter on board. And that was a real turning point for this lad. So I'm not saying that him and my daughter were friends. However, now and again, he did check in with her and just say, hey, how you going? And he just went a different path. So I feel like if I'd have reacted with my first instinct, which was aggressive, you know, it was wanting to protect my own. It was, I was angry, I was disappointed, I was just really upset. If I'd have responded in that energy, I think the outcome would have been very different. And I'm just lucky that with my training and experience, I sat with it, I stepped back, and I decided to respond in a way that would hopefully bring a solution for everybody. And I feel like it did. And look, I've done this several times. So we found out one of my sons was going through a bad time, and he's like an onion. You have to painfully peel him over time. And eventually, after weeks of bad behavior and rudeness and just completely out of character for him, he was being so difficult, so rude, so defiant. And in the end, we sat down. I said, oh, what's going on with you? What's happening? And of course, then we got to the bottom of, for about 8 weeks, 6 boys had been bullying him. They'd been poking him, kicking him, pushing him, stealing his stuff, emptying his rucksack, you know, just nasty comments and just constant. The poor guy wasn't getting a break from it. And so again, the mama bear comes out. How dare anybody hurt one of my cubs? And I don't think I'm ever not going to respond like that, because I completely dedicated to my kids. I love them intensely. I love who they are. You know, they're my babies, and I'm never going to not feel protective of them. But again, I sat with it for a while. I calmed down. I let my logical mind come forth, my intelligent response unit to come to the front. And I wrote another letter, because I'm a writer. That's what I do. So I wrote the letter to the boys that are choosing to bully my child, and wrote the whole thing again, very similar lines. And again, gave it to the deputy principal and said, look, this is what I've done, this is how I deal with things, do with the letter what you will. And again, this was a different school, and the deputy principal said, I'm going to use this letter. And she did. She got all of the boys involved into her office, and she read them the letter. They all cried. These big, tough, you know, rulers of the school, they all cried. And, you know, it alerted them to a more expanded mindset of the implications of their actions. It alerted their parents to the fact that perhaps something wasn't going quite right for them and they needed extra support. And it alerted the school to that fact as well. And since I actually published the letter without any names in it, identifying features, on my Facebook, and I had school counsellors contacting me saying, can we use this letter as a generic tool to teach our kids? I said, yeah, of course, it's going to help you, absolutely, no problem. So this made me think, okay, there's a need for this kind of thinking out there. And I have received backlash online for this, and I understand that. I honestly do, because people want to protect the people that they love. I get it. And I absolutely feel that anybody that's choosing, and it is a choice, they're choosing to use bullying, intimidating behavior, absolutely have to own the responsibility of that. They absolutely have to face consequences for that. But then I think there's another step where we're trying to identify why are they doing it? Because, you know, happy people don't hurt people. It's a fact, you know. So, you know, they're obviously going through something on some level where they need extra support. And the behaviors that they're demonstrating, it's difficult to want to give them love and support and encouragement and connection, because they don't seem as though they deserve it because of the behaviors they're demonstrating. But it's those times when these kids need it the most. And it's these times when we have to separate our primitive instinctual reaction, step back, put our parent head on, put our adult head on, put our intelligent head on, our logical, you know, thinking, and deal with it in a way that would offer solutions for everybody involved. Because if we're healing everybody that's involved in it, there's a better chance of it not repeating in the future. So with Dear Bully, this one here available on Amazon and illustrated by my daughter, it's a basically tuning into that energy. So in this book, we're going through, and I wanted to make it non-gender specific because I want it to be accessed by any child. So it's a different perspective. So I'll show you the picture and I'll just read you the first page. So it says, Dear Bully, I am worried about you. You have been making lots of mistakes lately. You have said some things to hurt the feelings of others. That's not like you. Because something else that I've discovered during my teaching years is that if you identify the behavior as bullying behavior, behavior is easier to change. Whereas if you say to a child, you are a bully, as if that's their identity, that's who they are, that's more overwhelming. That's something that you feel, well, I can't change that because I am a bully. Whereas if you say this behavior that you're demonstrating is bullying behavior, it's not acceptable, and it's a choice actually. It gives the person more power to change that behavior. So that's a really interesting concept that I wanted to explore in the book as well. You know, and here it says further on into the book, you see the illustration there, the boomerang represents the pain that they're throwing out into the world, and guess what, it just comes back and hits you. It comes back and hurts you. It's karma, basically. What you put out into the world, you get back. So it says here, it's not okay to hurt other people in any way. When you hurt them, you hurt yourself too. It's not okay for anyone to hurt you in any way either. So, you know, it's saying what you're doing is not right. Everybody has a right to feel happy and safe and connected and loved. You know, the people that you're bullying have the right to feel that, and so do you have the right to feel that, because, you know, we need to remember these are often kids themselves. They're not, you know, hardened criminals. They're just very young, frightened, confused people in the majority of cases. So let's have a look what else we can see. In the back, we've got some points to share with children, and that's for, you know, you to work through with your class or your children at home, or whoever, you know, ever professional is working with young children. And I've had a lot of amazing feedback, and it's just activities for you to share with your kids, and how to use this book as a tool with your children. So here, for example, it's giving ideas of how someone that's displaying bullying behavior can reach out for help. So it says you could draw a picture of how you feel. You could write it all in a letter. You could call someone on the phone. You could tell someone at a quiet time, just please tell someone. So it's urging the person who's struggling, it's urging them to reach out for help, for support, because that's obviously what they're craving, and they're going about it in all the wrong way. Now, I understand why people can be aggressive towards this thought process, because again, as I said, I completely understand why people get really angry, really defensive and really protective, because I do it myself, so I completely get it. And as I said, I'm just lucky I've got the training to step back and calm and get that more sort of intelligent, logical, professional hat on and deal with it in a different way. But this has been really successful, this book, particularly in schools, because it's shedding a slightly different light on it. And, you know, there's big campaigns out there anti-bullying, you know, and I think, you know, all the intention behind that is really good and positive. But the energy around it, for me, doesn't quite fit with me. So, for example, instead of anti-bullying, I'd rather teach kindness, because it's got a different energy about it. You know, teach empathy, teach all of these skills. And, you know, kids need to be able to stand up for themselves. They need to be able to be safe. I totally get that, and I agree with it. But also, you know, we need to teach these kids the skills to, you know, to fit in the class, to make friends, to make the connections. And I've said in a previous recording about a boy that I used to teach in England, and he used to go through the day hitting everybody. He didn't have any friends. He was quite immature for his age. There was some few issues going on at home. And, you know, my focus with him for the first 6 weeks was make him a sticker chart to get him through the day. And every session that he got through without hitting somebody, he got a sticker. I had to bring it down as basic as that, you know, and he didn't even have to get a full sticker chart to get a certificate home, which means that, you know, he might have slipped up and hit somebody 5 times that week, but he still got a certificate home. That sounds a bit crazy, but, you know, it was a 85% improvement on what he had been doing. And I was trying to facilitate positive change. And, you know, in a couple of weeks, he went through the whole day without hurting anybody, because the steps that I'd set out before him were achievable. When he slipped up, he was held accountable, he faced consequences. That didn't change, but it was within a framework of the possibility of succeeding in something bigger. And I had a glass jar with the beads, and every time this kid did anything tiny that was positive, I would stop the whole class and I'd say, hey guys, we're going to call him George. George just did this amazing thing. That's another bead in the jar. Thank you, George. And each bead represented a minute extra play. So at the end of the week on a Friday, the playtime would end, all of the classes would line up, and then I would stand at the front of my line with my jar and I'd count all of the beads that George had earned during the week. And I'd say, hey guys, you've got another 6 minutes extra play. Thank you, George. And guess what? George became quite popular. Everyone was thankful to George. George felt good about himself and he made friends. And his whole world turned around because he was accepted, he had connection, he had belonging, which is what we're all searching for. Even as adults, that's what we're searching for. But with an adult and a child, it's our job to facilitate that for kids that haven't got the ability to do it for themselves. So that's the book, Dear Bully. That's how it can be used. That's the story behind it. We're quite passionate in this family about this book because it's based on our real life experiences and it has really worked for us. And I was absolutely thrilled that my daughter illustrated this book because, you know, she has been through such bad bullying. She actually stopped eating at one point. She had lots of difficulty with anxiety. And so, you know, we're writing this from a place where we have been victims of bullying multiple times. You know, we're writing from a place of reality, and it's based on our real life experiences, and it's really worked for us in a very positive way, which is why I wanted to share it with you guys. So that's Dear Bully. I hope you've enjoyed this little explanation about it. It is available on Amazon, and there's an offer on actually that if you buy the paperback, you get the Kindle version for free. So when you buy it and you love it, please do drop me a line, send me a photograph with you holding the book with your kids, and please feel free to leave a review on Amazon so that it's more visible to other people who it might help. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.